think this is going to work now. I think. There we go.
Member for Courtney Monashee.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce my two rockstar constituency advisors here from the beautiful city of Castlegar. They're up here in the gallery. Please join me in welcoming them. Thank you.
Madam Host. Member for Salmon Arm, Shuswap.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. At this time, I'd like to thank my spouse, Denise Fisher, for attending today.
Why are you so reluctant? Awesome. Thank you. Madam, sorry. Courtney Monashee.
My apologies. First time jitters, Sarah Brownlee and Angelica Brenner.
Anyone else? Now is the time. Okay, here we go. Coquitlam Mallardwell.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Now, I'm afraid this is my inexperience and I'm a very new MLA. I may not actually recognize my constituents. They have just emailed me that they are in the House. So I would like all of you to welcome Dr. Howard and Ms. Carolyn Mom, who are my constituents. And if they could wave. Hey! Thank you all.
Seeing no one else. Madam Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to present a message from His Honor.
Introduction of bills.
Her Honor, the Lieutenant Governor, the Administrator, actually, transmits herewith Bill Number 2 and Teachold Acting Conflict of Interest Commissioner Continuation Act and recommends the same to the Legislative Assembly. Minister.
I move that the bill be introduced and read a first time now. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce the Acting Conflict of Interest Commissioner Continuation Act. This bill will enable the Acting Conflict of Interest Commissioner's term to continue until the next Conflict of Interest Commissioner can be appointed for a 5-year term. The Commissioner serves a vital role in promoting public confidence in elected public officials as they conduct their business. Commissioner serves the proposed legislation will ensure there is no vacancy in this important office.
Members, the first reading of the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Minister.
Speaker, I move that the bill be placed on the orders of the day for second reading at the next sitting of the House after today.
You have heard the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to present a message from Her Honor the Administrator.
Turn the phone on. Administrator transfers herewith Bill Number 3 Intitual Protected Areas of British Columbia Amendment Act 2025 and recommends the same to the Legislative Assembly. Minister.
I move that the bill be introduced and read a first time now. Honourable Speaker, this bill contains amendments to the Protected Areas of British Columbia Act. These amendments continue the legislative work needed to maintain and improve the BC Protected Areas system. This work includes adding lands to existing parks, updating and improving legal descriptions, and completing necessary administrative changes. These amendments will add approximately 143 hectares to 3 parks and also remove approximately 1 hectare of land from one of those same parks. The bill also allows for the transfer of Kilby Park to the administration of the Heritage Branch of the Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport. This bill also contains amendments to rename 2 parks to include their Indigenous place name. On an administrative note, I want to point out that to all the members that copies of the new official plans referenced in the bill will be posted on the BC Parks website for public and member review. Speaker, I move that the bill be placed on orders of the day for the second reading at the next sitting of the House.
Members, this is the first reading of the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now, Minister.
Speaker, I move that the bill be placed on the orders of the day for second reading at the next sitting of the House after today.
You have heard the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
They're literally babysitting people through this. That's how many new people there are.
Madam Clerk.
Statements by members.
Member for Burnaby North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to honor the memory of Bill Brassington. He was my life partner, my soulmate for almost 50 years. This is the first speech I've given in this chamber without his support. I've tested every speech on him first, and he'd time it and give me feedback. He'd encourage me to be brave, to speak truth to power, to use every opportunity to share our understanding of what the world is and what the world could be. He'd encourage me to use my voice in the BC legislature to give voice to those who are shut out from the halls of power. And then he'd watch me on the legislative channel giving that speech. Over the last few months, so many people have shared their Brassington stories. They describe him as a gentleman. They remember him for his quiet competence, intelligence, wit, kindness, loyalty, and the high standards he set for himself. Be it learning to golf or to fly a plane, or be it defending workers' rights, he put his all into everything he undertook. He's remembered as a role model. Bill was a founding member of the Public Service Alliance of Canada and was instrumental in turning a loose alliance of staff associations into an effective labour union. Bill was deeply moved by what he witnessed during a solidarity tour to Nicaragua in 1985, and it motivated him to help found Co-Development Canada, so unions in BC could support unions in the Global South and together raise the living standards of all workers to their mutual benefit. Bill believed that politics matters, that we advance social justice by actively working to elect governments that share our values. He put up lawn signs, attended conventions, sat on executives, recruited volunteers at every level of government. Bill was 15 years older than me. We both knew I would probably outlive him. But it's really hard to accept that this evening I won't be able to call him to find out how he thought I did today. Thank you.
Not to be rude, but like, did that all need to be said? Is this business? Like, I have my friends and my family to deal with that. God bless. Not being a jerk, just saying.
We'll see their signs all over the provinces, places that you wouldn't even expect to. An image of a cow moose with a snow-covered nose. The image has become well known in many parts of the province as an initiative continues to expand. The cow moose sign project started in 2014 by Dan and Vivian Simmons of Williams Lake with the intention of protecting cow and calf moose. Dan and Vivian continue to educate the public through groups and schools and actively promote the protection and the respect of cow moose. It has been a struggle, but the tenacity of this amazing couple has them winning the battle. They've changed hunting protocols and have changed the opinions of thousands of residents. And Mr. Speaker, they've saved countless numbers of cow and calf moose from harvest. In 2022, a victory for these animals occurred when, after 8 years of cow-calf moose only season was cancelled, and along with 121 cow-calf limited entry hunting tags being removed from the regulations. This project has the partnership of more than 60 First Nations that have worked with the Conservation Service, signing MOUs to protect these incredible animals. And tremendous support has been given by the Guide Outfitters Association of BC, BC Trappers Association and Hunters of BC, Alberta Professional Outfitters Society, and so many businesses throughout the Cariboo-Chilcotin. A special thanks to the late Roger Stewart of the Government of British Columbia for recognizing the importance of this campaign. Mr. Speaker, they do all of this work for no other reason than a love of wildlife. The effort that Dan and Vivian Simmons have put forth is nothing less than staggering. Mr. Speaker, they are truly great British Columbians, and I ask this whole House to give these icons of British Columbia a tremendous thank you.
Member for North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to highlight an invaluable asset serving North Vancouver, the North Vancouver Chamber of Commerce. To begin, I acknowledge that I'm speaking from the ancestral lands of the Lekwungen people, the Esquimalt and the Songhees. Additionally, I have the privilege of representing North Vancouver Seymour, which is located on the traditional lands of the Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish people. Over the past year, I've had the opportunity to participate in numerous events organized by the Chamber, all aimed at fostering connections, promoting business growth, and addressing key community issues. The Women in Business event, held on International Women's Day, brought together a diverse group of women to celebrate and support each other. A meet and greet at a local restaurant featuring Minister Callon, and Chamber leaders, including CEO Patrick Safford-Smith, facilitated a meaningful discussion on housing challenges within our community. Business After 5 at the Wood Spirit Company, a local distillery, provided an evening of networking, while the Walk and Talk event at Sealand Park and Spirit Trail encouraged engagement between businesses and residents. The Chamber's C-SPAN Shipyards tour generated great excitement, and the attendees observed the near-complete joint support and supply vessel for the Canadian Navy and learned about the vital role of shipbuilding in our local economy, employing over 4,800 tradespeople and professionals. The recent Senior Care Services Roundtable at the Sunrise in Lonsdale Square provided a critical platform for service providers to discuss industry challenges. Most recently, the Chamber swiftly convened business leaders along with the provincial and federal representatives to address economic and tariff concerns. Their responsiveness and dedication continue to benefit our entire community, and I am grateful for their ongoing efforts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's great to be back in the BC Legislature with an opportunity to highlight an exciting event that celebrates Surrey's rich history. This Saturday, February 22nd, during Heritage Week, the Surrey Historical Society is hosting Pastimes in Past Times at the Cloverdale United Church. The event is a tribute to how community members spent their leisure time before the advent of television and modern entertainment. It's an opportunity for us to step back in time and appreciate the games, sports, and hobbies and activities enjoyed by previous generations. The event will feature interactive areas where children can play and games from the past so that adults can revisit the entertainments of their childhood, their parents, and grandparents' generations. The gathering will not only educate, but also engage our community in understanding, experiencing, and maybe even developing a fondness for pastimes of past times. The event will also feature displays of posters, artifacts, memorabilia, and offer a visual journey through time. There's also going to be a trivia contest and refreshments to enjoy. Cloverdale United Church, with its own deep historical roots, serves as the perfect venue for this event because Cloverdale United Church is designated a heritage building. In the heart of Cloverdale, it was built in 1950, 75 years ago, and this year will mark the founding of the United Church of Canada over 100 years ago in 1925. So I wish to thank, Mr. Speaker, the Surrey Historical Society and the Cloverdale United Church for hosting the event. I hope that each of you join us to learn, laugh, and connect with our past. Please mark your calendars for this Saturday, February 22nd, 1 to 5 at the Cloverdale United Church. Let's come together to appreciate past times and pastimes. I dare you to say it 5 times fast, Mr. Speaker, and keep our vibrant history alive. Thank you.
Member for Vancouver Strathcona.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today I want to speak about the importance of decorum in this House. We are here to serve the people of British Columbia, and every word we speak in this chamber sends a message to our constituents, including the most vulnerable members of our communities who rely on us to stand up for their rights and dignity. When I listen to some of the issues raised in this House, I hear anger, and what's really underneath anger is hurt. We're all in this together, and our constituents deserve leadership who resolve issues in a professional and positive manner. Let us use this chamber as a model of respectful dialogue. When we speak with civility, we demonstrate to the people that their concerns are met with thoughtful consideration. Every respectful conversation we have here is a promise to our communities that we are committed to lifting them up. Before I conclude, I'd like to give a shout out to community leaders who model these values, like the Public and Government Affairs Director at Salvation Army, who's soon to retire, for her tireless dedication and hard work serving our communities. Your commitment shines as an example to us all. I urge us all to remember the faces behind the issues, the mothers, the children, the seniors, and every person who looks to us for hope and guidance. Let us ensure our debates are a space of mutual respect, reflecting the best of who we are as leaders. Thank you.
Member for Prince George, North Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute in memory of Robin Sharp, former mayor of the District of Wells and a prominent resident and leader in the Caribou for nearly 4 decades. Robin came to the Caribou in 1986 after completing a Bachelor of Science degree in Wildlife Management from Simon Fraser University, taking up work with BC Parks, and over time as manager of visitor services at Barkerville Historic Town and Park. Robin was a pioneer in his own right, being elected to the 1st District of Wells Council in 1997 and appointed the first CEO of the Barkerville Heritage Trust in 2005. While retirement from the Barkerville Historic Trust came in 2010, Robin did not rest easy, rolling up his sleeves and successfully running for office in 2011, this time for mayor of the District of Wells. Robin ultimately served 2 terms in the mayor's chair. Over the years, Robin took a leadership role in the region, acting as the committee chair for the Wells Barkerville chapter of Ducks Unlimited Canada, president and treasurer of the Wells Curling Club, director-treasurer of the Caribou-Chilcotin Coast Tourism Association, member of the Caribou-Chilcotin Regional Advisory Committee for the Northern Development Initiative Trust, member of the Caribou-Chilcotin Beetle Action Coalition, and member of the Gold Rush Trail Marketing Board. The legacy of Robin's tireless efforts for Barkerville, the District of Wells, and the Caribou is significant. I would like to extend my condolences to Robin's family and friends, as well as the constituents of the District of Wells and the team at the Barkerville Heritage Trust. Robin will be greatly missed, but never forgotten. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, members. We will be starting question period soon. Just a guide and encouragement to all members. If you can ask a short question and a short answer, then we'll cover much more wider and more ground. So, Madam Clerk.
Oral questions by members.
Leader of the official opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by reading some quotes with regards to safe supply and the diversion into criminals' hands. March 12th of 2024, the government House Leader said that widespread diversion was, quote, simply not true. February of this year, Mr. Speaker, the Premier questioned this, saying, quote, if it is happening. February of 2024, the Provincial Health Officer said, quote, diversion is not in itself good or bad, or right or wrong, end quote. The government's own leaked report has shown that this information, that these statements are false. Will the Premier stop gaslighting the public? Will he admit his government has been misleading the public on this? And will he enact a public inquiry into the safe supply scandal?
Honourable Premier.
We've lost 16,000 people in this province to the toxic drug crisis since it was declared. It's fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers, colleagues, friends. And the consistent message that has come to us from people who've lost loved ones is do whatever you can to try to help keep people alive, get them into treatment so they can rebuild their lives. And it's advice from family and friends like that that resulted in the prescribed alternative program to get a nurse or a doctor between someone struggling with addiction and a predatory drug dealer. We know it's saved lives. You know, it's stabilized lives. The Conservatives know that too. And their spokesperson has supported the program in principle. But that doesn't mean that we tolerate diversion. We have taken steps with police. This is how the opposition knows about the issue with these pharmacies, to investigate bad pharmacies, to ensure that that information is shared with police for prosecutions, to address issues of diversion. Now the health minister has made an important but difficult announcement to move to an exclusively witnessed program, which we know is going to make it harder for some people to access this program that we know could save lives, but which we have to do to address the issue of diversion.
Leader of the official opposition, supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, it's true that 16,328 people have lost their lives to overdose. That's true. But it's also true that the Safe Supply program has put 22,416,000 doses into British Columbia and an unknown number of those into the hands of criminal activity. The report by this government shows that that is the facts. These drugs, of course, are also not safe. They are actually very dangerous drugs as well.
Facts.
The report clearly shows that this has been going on for years.
Too long.
The police reports have shown that this diverted supply into the hands of criminals has been going on for years.
110%.
And yet, as given those quotes, this has been denied by this government.
True.
The real question that the public is asking is who knew in advance how bad this situation was? When did they know about it? And quite frankly, the taxpayers want to know how much their money was wasted on drugs getting into criminals' hands. This is why, Mr. Speaker, the Premier must call a public inquiry and get answers to the public that demand to know how this government has been mistreating this file.
Premier.
Honourable Speaker, the risk of pharmacies diverting opioids existed before the prescribed alternative program. It exists after. The entity within the Ministry of Health that was set up.
He's lying.
Members, Premier has the floor.
The entity within the Ministry of Health that was set up to investigate pharmacies was set up in 2014 by the BC Liberal government because of issues related to the diversion of opioids. And so ensuring that that agency had the authority was focusing on pharmacies and the issue and the risk of diversion. It was a priority for us. We ensured that they had the resources to do that. It resulted in a very significant investigation, which they were briefing police on. That's how the opposition knows about this. It has resulted in criminal investigations that are ongoing with the College of Pharmacy to shut down bad actors, and the unfortunate and difficult but necessary decision to move to a witnessed-only program, which we know will compromise the access of people who need this program to stay alive, but we have to do to ensure that we're addressing the risk of diversion.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier and his government want you to believe that this is a problem with bad pharmacies, that it's bad actors. But this isn't a problem with bad pharmacies. This is a problem with bad policy, and the bad actors are members of this government and bureaucrats working under the supervision of this Premier who have been gaslighting British Columbians for more than 2 years. Mr. Speaker, after years of downplaying and denying the significant diversion of so-called safe supply, the government's own leaked presentation reports that their publicly funded drug trafficking is widespread. Taxpayer-funded safe supply went from prescribing 577,000 pills in 2020 to more than 22 million pills and fentanyl patches in the last 2 years. This is increasing the risk of population-level harms, with unknown quantities, Mr. Speaker, being trafficked provincially, nationally, and internationally. The public has a right to know, how could this happen? Now that the Premier recognizes his experiment has failed, when will he call a public inquiry?
Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think it's important to be clear. I canvassed this with the member for Surrey Cloverdale extensively in the estimates debates before the election. I acknowledge the risk of diversion is a serious issue. We were taking steps to ensure diversion, if it was taking place, was being addressed, resulted in dedicating a team within the Ministry of Health to investigate pharmacies, which is what the opposition has become aware of. It's led to criminal investigations. It is a serious matter. But on the issue of prescribed alternatives, I won't let the member shrink from her own record, because it's important to recognize that there's not a division in this House about the need for this program. February 17th on CKNW, the member said, "Conservatives, we know that there's a role for these drugs to be used to help people, to be titrated to other medications, to stabilize people." Well, I agree entirely. The unfortunate thing is some people are going to lose access to this program because of a difficult decision to move to witnessed ingestion only. And that's an unfortunate thing, but it's a necessary thing to address the issue of diversion.
Surrey Cloverdale, supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, more gaslighting from a Premier who fails to recognize his own failed experiment. For sure, there is a role for prescribed alternatives for drugs to help titrate and stabilize, but we're talking about a government program that has dumped millions of pills into the hands of criminals and drug traffickers, and I first raised the issue of diversion in this chamber on February 9th, 2023. That's more than 2 years ago. 2 years of flooding this province with hydromorphone, a highly addictive opioid 5 times more powerful than morphine. 2 years of fueling the fentanyl trade with program participants trading their dillies for street drugs. 2 years of taxpayer dollars being used to enrich criminal organizations, putting money into the hands of drug dealers that have killed 49,000 Canadians. Mr. Speaker, British Columbians have the right to know, how did this happen? When will the Premier call for a public inquiry?
Premier.
I'm sure the member didn't do it intentionally, Honourable Speaker, but she conflated the toxic street drugs like fentanyl and carfentanil with the prescribed alternative program supervised by nurses and doctors We've lost more than 16,000 people to the toxic drug crisis. And the prescribed alternative program, what I understood the member previously supported when she said the government has introduced a safe supply where they're giving hydromorphone and other drugs, slow-release morphine, they give it to individuals to help them get off illicit drugs, and that we need to continue exploring. Or when she said, this government was said to be exploring options for pharmaceutical alternatives to illicit drugs, and that's what they should be doing. That's October 26th, 2023. As recently as February, supported the program. It's an important program to save lives, but that doesn't mean that we tolerate.
Premier will continue.
Doesn't mean that we tolerate diversion. And to prevent diversion, we have to take the unfortunate but necessary step of moving to a witness-only.
Wow, he's a piece of poo.
Moving to a witness-only program, which will restrict access to the program for some people who are struggling with addiction, especially in rural areas. But we have to take that step in order to ensure that the public is protected. And we'll continue to support the ongoing police investigation, the college investigation into these pharmacies as best we can.
Why don't you just...
Leader of the third party.
Honourable Speaker, British Columbians are feeling alarmed and anxious, and with good reason. According to Finance Ministry estimates, U.S. tariffs could lead to 124,000 job losses in BC over the next 3 years. The government's main response to the tariff threat is a hasty plan to fast-track 18 mining and energy projects, including an LNG export terminal. The government estimates these projects would create 8,000 jobs. That leaves 116,000 job losses unaccounted for, a staggering number of jobs. Grocery rebate or not, British Columbians are left wondering how this government will support them during this time of uncertainty and how they will fortify our economy so we're less vulnerable to forces beyond our control. My question, Honourable Speaker, is for the Premier. What is the government's plan to protect people's livelihoods in the short term, but also transform our economy to deliver clean prosperity far into the future?
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Thank you to the member opposite for the question, and welcome to this House. One of the first tasks I was charged with in becoming Finance Minister was to bring forward the grocery rebate. We know that there are people in British Columbia who are struggling with affordability. We've taken many measures to support people in affordability. But, Mr. Speaker, on November 25th, when then-elect President Trump announced 25% tariffs across the board to Canadian businesses, the world changed. And we cannot move forward with the grocery rebate. We will, however, continue to support British Columbians in so many ways. And we will double down on the most important things for British Columbians: healthcare, education, safe streets, and ensuring that social services are available, Mr. Speaker. We are moving forward with growing our economy, and we're doing it in many, many ways. And while we accelerate these important projects that we have brought forward, acceleration doesn't necessarily mean only getting to yes. Acceleration can also mean getting to no, because we're still keeping the vital, vital protection of environment and collaboration with Indigenous peoples as our guiding light on these decisions. What we're getting rid of, Mr. Speaker, is death by maybe.
Thank you. Leader of third party supplemental.
Thank you. The Premier suggested in January at a mineral exploration conference that this government's, quote, hyper-focusing on things like Indigenous reconciliation, end quote, had pulled attention from economic growth. Economic growth from resource extraction can't happen without Indigenous consultation. It's the law. While I recognize that 12 of 18 projects have Indigenous partnership, on February 7th, the Tahltan Nation released a statement saying it was, quote, frustrated and surprised by the province's announcement of projects to be fast-tracked, 2 of them in Tahltan territory. On environmental assessment, the BC Oil and Gas Commission was frequently criticized for being too friendly to industry, and a name change alone will not fix that. How can British Columbians be assured that this government isn't using the tariff threat to push ahead with more conventional resource extraction at the expense of Indigenous rights and critical environmental protections?
Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you for a critically important question. It's an honour to get to speak to the partnerships that this government continues to form with First Nations across the province in economic development, as well as in a whole range of efforts to improve the quality of life for First Nations and Indigenous communities, as well as all British Columbians. The work that's been done to move projects forward in light of the alarming threat of tariffs includes, as folks in this House know, an important economic benefit for First Nations, and in fact a majority ownership by equity ownership by First Nations for a number of those projects. Those partnerships continue to be a priority for this government, and where there are difficult conversations, those are difficult conversations we're showing up to have side by side to figure out how we move forward together in this province. The path to prosperity for British Columbians is in partnership with First Nations, and that's a commitment we'll continue to make.
Thank you. Member for Skeena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While this NDP Premier was saying that diversion wasn't happening, his government knew that the police were investigating. Then Minister of Mental Health and Addiction said, quote, "I would say again that I have not heard directly a concern from law enforcement or seen evidence from law enforcement of safe supply being diverted," end quote. To the Premier, through you, Mr. Speaker, will he finally admit that the NDP's safe supply program has failed and it has only fueled BC's drug crisis?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We worked closely with police throughout this process, including with the RCMP, supporting them with the resources that they need to be able to do these investigations, providing them with information, including a briefing that
members.
So this guy is just like totally like if anybody hears a nut crack underneath the fucking chair, he stops talking and just like, man, he weighs like 80 pounds, bro.
including a briefing to assist frontline officers in being able to identify diverted drugs. And I think that's one of the reasons why
You're a freaking politician, bro.
Because we have been engaged in this work together, the Association of Chiefs of Police issued a statement today stating that they recognize the importance of harm reduction measures, including safe supply and addressing the ongoing toxic drug crisis, and noting with approval the move by the province to move to witness ingestion, saying, quote, "It is equally essential that these programs are structured in a way that prevents unintended consequences, including the illegal redistribution of prescribed substances." We agree entirely. That's why we've taken the step of moving to witnessed ingestion. It's a challenging decision because we know it'll limit access of some people to the program, but it's a necessary step, and glad to have the support of the police in taking this step.
Member for Skeena, supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That really wasn't an answer.
Wasn't.
14 years ago, I was a homeless addict living on the downtown east side. And I can tell you that the people that are going to die today and tomorrow deserve better than that answer.
I didn't see any question on that. Thank you very much. Let's move on to member for Prince George Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 50 bags of drugs, 700 pills, including fentanyl, methadone, methamphetamines, and cocaine, which according to the Prince George RCMP, a significant portion of which was diverted from safe supply. If the Premier had his way, the RCMP would not have taken these drugs off the streets, as it was his government that put them on the street in the first place. When will this government stop being the dealer for BC's drug addiction crisis?
Mr. Premier.
Oh, Honourable Speaker, that is completely false and regrettable. You know, it was when the Leader of the Opposition was in Cabinet. Drug dealers walked into BC casinos with hockey bags full of money, with impunity, after repeated warnings that was happening. refused to take action.
Did he
And we
just
have
say
unexplained
this?
wealth orders.
Member.
And
Now we have unexplained wealth orders. 4 different cases being used against people
who
that
are
have
your buddies?
astonishing wealth with no apparent means of producing it.
His buddies are the people.
We seized the Hells Angels clubhouses. Let me tell you, since 2020...
Members come to order.
Since 2020, police have seized over 1,800 firearms, 20 million in illegal cash and assets, and over 15,000 kilograms of illicit drugs and precursor chemicals.
Wow.
We provided witness protection to people coming forward to provide evidence against gangsters. It resulted in 80 different prosecutions of gangsters in this province, successful prosecutions, putting gangsters behind bars. Steps that Leader of the Opposition could have taken when he was on this side of the House. So I urge the member to look into her own leader's history before suggesting that this side of the House has done anything except attack organized crime from day one.
Members, that's enough. Member, Premier, conclude.
From day one, Honourable Speaker.
Liar, liar, pants on fire, hanging from a telephone wire.
Prince George Valemount, supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. The Solicitor General and the Premier may remember Sean Wright, the recently retired superintendent from the Prince George RCMP detachment. He said criminalization is, quote, the most horrific failure of public policy, unquote. Sean Wright, PG Citizen, August 14th, 2024. The RCMP know that the NDP's policies are a failure. Does the Minister of Public Safety stand with the RCMP and will support the call for a public inquiry into the safe supply now?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I think what the public wants most to know is that we are doing everything we can to save people's lives during a time of a toxic drug crisis that has impacted thousands of people. Not one person in this House, I bet, has not been touched by this crisis. And that's why we're taking every tool that we can and using it in a way that is evidence-based and is working to save people's lives, like the Prescribed Alternatives Program. Today, as has already been canvassed and as the Premier has said, difficult decisions were announced around how we can ensure the integrity of this program in a way that keeps people safe, the people who are using prescribed alternatives and the people living out in our communities, keeping people safe together. The public wants to know we're doing everything we can. And Mr. Speaker, that is exactly what we're doing. And we're going to stay focused on that, not just through the Prescribed Alternatives Program and making the changes that we've announced today, but by continuing to build the spectrum of supports that people need. Everything from prevention to treatment and recovery, building out that seamless system of recovery to help people in the best way possible. Thank you.
Member for Courtney Comox.
Mr. Speaker, my question is directed to the Minister of Health. Don Chamberlain, a resident of my riding, received the long-awaited call a healthy lung transplant lung was finally available. He rushed to Vancouver General Hospital from the island late on a Friday night in February, only 2 weeks ago, only to have his surgery cancelled at the last minute due to a lack of a perfusionist. Another casualty of BC's chronic healthcare staffing crisis. How many more British Columbians must suffer, and how many more organs will be thrown in the trash before this government fixes BC's healthcare staffing shortages?
Before the chair recognizes Minister of Health, I want to caution all members not to use any electronic devices during the question period. Thank you. Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question, and welcome to your new role as the critic for seniors care and for rural health. And I know that my colleague from Courtney Comox cares just as much about the services that people need.
and understands that we have a lot of work to do to strengthen our public healthcare system. Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we're focused on. And we know that in this time of a global shortage of healthcare workers, that serious action needs to be taken, and that's exactly what we're doing. Mr. Speaker, from attracting and retaining more doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers than ever before, by working to break down the barriers to get internationally trained graduates, working here in the province, delivering the care that they were trained to do for people here. Mr. Speaker, by adding 128 seats to the UBC Medical School, distributed across the province, a new medical school coming to Surrey focused specifically on training more family physicians here in this province. Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of work to do, but it is only by this work, concerted, month after month, year after year, that we are going to continue to build the healthcare system here. And it is showing progress. We are showing progress. We've attracted more doctors and nurses than ever before, and we're going to continue this work. Thank you.
Member supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, BC had 30 perfusionists in 2002. In a recent survey, 12 have left for the United States. 38%, aged 40 or younger, have signaled their intent to leave the profession in a short few years, and nearly 24% are planning on retiring in the next 5. In yesterday's throne speech, this government committed to attracting talent from the United States. How does this minister plan to stop the brain drain and bring back the specialists we need here in BC to save British Columbians' lives?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yes, it is incredibly frustrating for somebody who's going through the experience like the member speaks of. That's why we've got to continue the work to attract and retain more doctors and specialists. That's why we're working with a college to reduce the barriers for people to practice here in BC by removing or making it possible for physicians from other parts of Canada to be certified immediately, by working with the college to ensure that within 6 weeks, those specialists and physicians coming from jurisdictions, comparable jurisdictions around the world, are able to practice here in BC. That is work that we are doing right now, Mr. Speaker, and we are going to continue it. Thank you.
Member for Langley Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, the Kootenay Bay Balfour Ferry strike has put local lives in absolute turmoil since September. I have heard from countless people of a failing ferry service and the impact on their lives, having to take a treacherous 3-hour trip in the dark through the Kootenay Pass. Yet the member from Kootenay Central sits idly by and allows this to happen without lifting a finger. My question to the Transport Minister: why don't the lives of East Kootenay matter to this government?
Minister of Labour.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the member for the question. Of course, I understand that people in the Kootenays do really rely on the ferry system and that they're frustrated with the impacts of this situation. I have urged both parties to be at the bargaining table, to work hard, diligently, and with urgency to end this dispute. We know that negotiations are right now taking place between the operator and their employees. Government is not at the table in these talks. And we know that the most sustainable and best outcomes in a negotiating process occur at the bargaining table. And again, I'm strongly urging the parties to be at the bargaining table, to work with urgency and diligence in resolving their collective agreement issues so that life can get back to normal for people in the Kootenays. Thank you.
Member, wait. Now you can start.
Mr. Speaker, this strike has cost people their jobs. A business owner lost $2,000 in 1 week because people couldn't simply get to him. 10 sailings have been scaled back to 3. A father who cannot get his autistic son to medical appointments in Nelson is very critical. Early age diagnosis goes a long way. Again, to the minister, are you going to step in and act? for the East Kootenay residents, or will you continue and allow this chaos to reign in these communities?
Member, all the question must be asked through the chair, not to the minister. Thank you. Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Again, I understand how frustrating this situation is for people who are impacted by this dispute. Again, the parties are currently at the table in negotiations, talking with each other, working through their issues. I think they understand the importance of resolving this situation for people in the Kootenays. The Labour Relations Board has been working with the community and with the parties to support a resolution to this bargaining dispute. And I am again urging all parties to ensure that they are at the table and working diligently to ensure that this dispute is solved with urgency.
The bell ends question period. Member for Three Cloverdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to address a point of personal privilege. Mr. Speaker, the Premier stated that I had conflated safe supply with fentanyl and carfentanil. This is incorrect, and I would ask that the Premier withdraw his statement. What I said, Mr. Speaker, was that it's 2 years of fueling the fentanyl trade because the program that the government has been running has been allowing its participants to trade the government, the taxpayer-funded drugs on the street for street fentanyl, thusly driving the fentanyl trade, putting money into the hands of criminals, Mr. Speaker, that have funded it.
It's a fact.
Thank
I
you.
ask that the Premier please withdraw.
Thank you.
Oh, why is it silent? Are they allowed to do that? This is what they were doing in the federal place. They were doing this we're gonna stop it. Is he allowed to do that?
Member, it sounded like a point of order, not a point of privilege. So it was a point of order. So the Premier doesn't have to answer right now. If he doesn't want to, then we can deal with it later. Thank you. It was a point of order.
Let's just deal with it now.
Honorable members, I have the honor to table the following reports, and there are quite a few, so I need your patience. First one, Auditor General, Annual Follow-up Report, Status of Performance Audit Recommendations 2029, 2022, May 2024. Annual Report 2023-24, June 2024. Interim Report on the Examination of MNP's Administration of the Advanced Research and Commercialization Grant Program, June 2024. Final Report on the Examination of MNP's Administration of the Advanced Research and Commercialization Grant Program, August 2024. And Conflict of Interest Commissioner, Annual Report 2023. Elections BC, Annual Report 2023-24 and Service Plan 2024-25, 26, 27, and the report of the Chief Electoral Officer on the 2022 General Local Elections, October 15, 2022. Human Rights Commissioner, Spreading Our Wings, Annual Report 2023-24 and Service Plan 2024-25 and 2026-27. Merit Commissioner, Annual Report upholding fair hiring in the BC Public Service 2023-2024 and Merit Performance Audit Report 2023-24, December 24. Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner, Annual Report 2024-2024. Ombudsperson, Annual Report 2023-2024. Public Interest Disclosure Act, Special Report Number 1, Higher Power, the appointment of ineligible candidates to the temporary assignments in the public service, June 2024. Special Report Number 57, under inspection, the hiatus in BC Correctional Center inspection, July 2024, and Special Report Number 58, shortchanged ensuring federal benefits paid to the province reach caregivers of children and disability, January 2025. Register of Lobbyists, Determination Decision 2402, Abcelera Biologics Incorporation designated. Filer Carl Hansen, June 27, 2024, and Determination Decision 2404, BC Chamber of Commerce, designated filer Fiona Famulak, December 11, 2024. Representative for Children and Youth, Annual Report 2324 and Service Plan 24 to 2024-25 to 26-27, Amplifying Voices for Change. Don't Look Away, How One Boy's Story Has the Power to Shift a System of Care for Children and Youth, July 2024. Don't Look Away, How One Boy's Story Has the Power. It's the same report, I guess. No Time to Wait, a review of MCFD's child welfare. It was new report? Okay, sorry. So that was a revised report. Don't Look Away, How One Boy's Story Has the Power to Shift a System of Care for Children and Youth, July 2024, revised report. No Time to Wait, a review of MCFD's Child Welfare Workforce, Part 1, July 2024. No Time to Wait, a review of MCFD's Child Welfare Workforce, Part 2, February 25, and Too Many Left Behind, Ensuring Children and Youth with Disabilities Thrive, January 2025. Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I have the honour to present the first report of the Special Committee of Selection for the first session of the 43rd Parliament, and I move that the report be taken as read.
Members, the question is that the report be taken as read and received. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Government House Leader.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Honourable Speaker, I ask leave of the House to move a motion to adopt the report.
Members, the question is to request for leave and is leave granted? Aye. Proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move the report be adopted.
Thank you. The question is to adopt the report. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to present the Public Guardian Trustee of British Columbia's Annual Report 2023-24.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I also have the honour of presenting the annual report of the British Columbia Ferry Commissioner for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 24.
Minister of Citizen Services.
Honourable Speaker, I have the honour to present the annual report of the Chief Records Officer.
Thank you. Minister of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship.
Honourable Speaker, I have the honour to present the annual report of the activities under the Drinking Water Protection Act in BC 2022-2023 from the Office of the Provincial Health Officer.
Thank you, Minister. Madam Clerk.
Orders of the day.
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In this chamber, I call address and reply to the throne speech.
Thank you. Deputy Speaker or Assistant Deputy Speaker, one of them.
So, let's see what happens Just gonna let it roll. I've never watched any of these before, so I'm just gonna let it roll. And no one's in here, so they've turned it off, and it is what it is. It's quite interesting to hear. They all attacked him. They just all attacked. It was a full attack on the Liberals and the NDP related to the drugs. Straight facts. Where can't it? Like, why can't it go? It's only 13 megs, so.
Good afternoon, members. We're going to call this to order. For those of you enjoying conversations, we'll get you to take those into the hall. We're going to have some business to conduct here, and we're going to call on the member from North Vancouver Seymour to make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, seconded by the member for Surrey City Centre, that we, His Majesty's most dutiful and loyal subjects, the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia in session assembled, beg leave to thank Your Honour for the gracious speech which Your Honour has addressed to us at the opening of the present session. I will continue with my remarks, if I may, Mr. Speaker.
Please do.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak in support of the 2025 throne speech. As I begin, I acknowledge that I am speaking on the lands of the Lekwungen people, the Songhees and Esquimalt in particular. I am always grateful for the time that I spend here and for the opportunities that I have to learn about and work towards real reconciliation that is meaningful and effective. Additionally, I acknowledge with appreciation the Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish nations on whose unceded land the riding of North Vancouver Seymour is founded. The ongoing stewardship of the land and water that those nations do is literally rehabilitating the ecosystems of fish, of wildlife in the area, and of both aquatic and land-based flora. It has been my honour to witness the work being done thus far and to offer appreciative recognition of the impact. It is my privilege and honour to rise and speak to the throne speech opening the first session of the 43rd Parliament of the Province of British Columbia. This session started off in a good way with reflections from Elder Frank George of the Songhees Nation and Elder Mary Ann Thomas of the Esquimalt First Nations. Thank you for your welcome and your reminder to do our work with good feelings in our hearts. The wonderful performance from the Lekwungen traditional singers and dancers serve to ground us as our deliberations begin. It is therefore with great pleasure that I rise to support the throne speech and acknowledge it for what it is, a roadmap to guide us through these uncertain times and a reflection of how we have committed to working with and for the people of British Columbia and will continue to do so in here. I would first, however, like to thank my friends and family for enduring support and encouragement. I am deeply grateful for the stalwart support from my husband Rick, my daughters Lindsay and Nicole, my son-in-law Troy, our friends Rebecca and Thomas, as well as many other family members and friends. I also wish to express gratitude to the people of North Vancouver Seymour, who have for the past 4 years, and now for another 4, entrusted me with the role of representing them and advocating on their behalf as their MLA. This role is significantly enhanced by the work of my constituency office staff, who maintain exemplary service and support daily for the public of our community. They ensure that people as well have access to speak to me directly about their issues and concerns, as well as keeping me abreast of and participating in meaningful events. It truly takes a team of diverse talent to work for a community, a ministry, and a province. I also wish to thank the constituents who reach out with questions, concerns, complaints, solutions, and gratitude. This open flow of communication is essential to democratic governance and bonds us together in real time. We see our constituency office as a community office, also serving as a venue for art displays, showcasing local artists, a meeting spot for guiding units as they explored politics and leadership, and a place of celebration and connection for our monthly book club. The backbone of that office are my staff, Stephen Tweedale, Michael Charwa, Graham Assos, and our new youth outreach coordinator, Lena McLaughlin. They are all dedicated to as well as those who meet outreach and attend a variety of events. As always and again, I thank the steadfast volunteers that enable myself and my office staff to reach out in a diverse variety of ways to our constituents.
My apologies, first-time jitters, Sarah Brownlee and Angelica Brenner.
Anyone else? Now is the time. Okay, here we go. Coquitlam Lardwell.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Now, I'm afraid this is my inexperience and I'm a very new MLA. I may not actually recognize my constituents. They have just emailed me that they are in the House.